Frank. What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where are we gonna party?
I don't know, somewhere.
Okay, we could go to the park.
Oh, no, we can't. The cops said they'd shoot us if we go back to the park.
Yeah, and I ain't in no mood to die tonight.
I like death.
Welcome to minute 28 of Do You Want to Party, a Movies by Minute podcast for the 1985 horror classic, The Return of the Living Dead. I'm your host, Troy, and starting off the next annual calendar, we have the returning guest host,
Daniel.
Hello, Daniel.
Hey.
All right, so we're going to start
off
week. Another fun week, yep. Minute 28 starts off with why would he be going into a mortuary, and ends with Bert curious about Ernie's situation. Okay, so we begin with the tail end of our cemetery sequence for a little bit of a while. Casey has just questioned what she has seen and is trying to get clarification of Chuck's response.
Because why would Freddy be going into a mortuary?
Chuck gives his clarification of her with a bit of sass, while chomping on some gum as he continues to prep his next smoke. Still rolling her eyes as she turns away from Chuck's response, Casey starts looking towards the area she thought she saw Freddy in a moment ago, herself chewing on something, but she's got a chocolate bar. She's about to take another bite, a chocolate bar that she's about to take another bite of. Chuck seems pretty pleased with his shutting down of Casey's idea. We now cut to a close-up of Marty McFly, or if you prefer Peter Quill's, orange foam Walkman headphones. The German Afrika Korps marching song, Panzer Rollen in Afrika war, plays, settled against the ears of its owner. We now cut to a bleach white hair of the owner of the Walkman. Yet another great veteran character, Don Calfa, playing Ernest Kettleburner. He's got a very classy pipe clenched in his mouth as he slightly bobs his head in tune to the music. The pipe being held by a yellow gloved hand. Cut to a further back shot, revealing Ernie wearing a red wine color tracksuit with a medical-style apron over top of it. The main player of the Walkman fitting neatly in the top front pocket of his tracksuit. Reaching just below the camera angle, he proceeds to grab a cutting implement that he briefly uses to cut through the material just out of the camera shot, which we can audibly hear. Once done, he tosses it aside, making a metallic sound. We then pull back even further to reveal the room and Ernie's subject that he's just sliced into. A giant black metal door behind him, a yellow tiled wall adorned with a corkboard that has a dart, paper target paper picture on it, two framed documents, a framed Nazi-themed advertisement, a clock showing 9:18 p.m., which is accurate to the timestamp of 3 minutes ago. On a, in quotes, coat hanger is Ernie's black leather trench coat and a coffee maker. On the table before him is the corpse of which Ernie is performing a procedure of aspiration, which is a removal of blood and other bodily fluids through suction. Small incision is made just above the navel. A long needle called a trocar is placed inside the abdominal cavity and thoracic cavities of the remains.
Did some homework.
Yeah, I did a little bit of homework, yeah. It comes up a little later on, and so I figured, okay, well, I better drop all the information about what's going on.
Prepping them to be burned.
Hmm. And this is periodically what we witness. Ernie does. He is slowly inserting the needle, the previously mentioned trocar, getting a little bit of a resistance. He quickly inserts a quick insert close up of Don Calfa's face again. When we cut back, Ernie is now leaning over the corpse's head, blowing away something from its face. There's a knocking on the door behind Ernie, which he doesn't react to because of the headphones. Ernie taps the corpse middle section and then adjusts the dial on the pump working on the process of drainage. Now, if we go to mark 27 minutes and 38 seconds, this starts off with our next continuous shot, which is one of my favorite things about the movies. Without getting a response, the door slowly opens as Bert peeks his head inside. Not revealing the area outside of the door very much, Bert inquires about Ernie's situation.
What do you say, Ernie?
He turns to look at his associates just outside the door, which we still do not see yet, then steps all the way in before he starts to close the door. And that's about all that we have for the description of this particular minute. Now, when I mentioned Ernie's full name, you give a little bit of a chuckle. For those that are not 100% sure about this Ernie character, this Ernest, again, let me get his full name again in here before, again, really shouldn't be mentioning this character's name very much in its full long, because basically Don Knopfler's character of Ernie is roughly based on an actual person. He is basically a man during the Nazi occupation that was actually tried for after the war murders and all that sort of thing. Like he was brought up on charges of murders and whatnot as a Nazi, and it's definitely the idea that Dan O'Bannon had written into the character, whether or not it was going to go into his full background and all that, the suggestions of this character being the actual Nazi that is in our reality, the actual person. So this is sort of like a character that's gone into hiding after the war and has been under this other guise of someone else, but still using the actual name of the so
had the jacket and everything.
Exactly, the black leather jacket. We have a previous an upcoming, like the next minute we understand that he is dealing with weaponry that is along the same lines of the paraphernalia of the era of World War II and all that sort of thing. So it's and again, we have there's a picture also on the cork board where the dart and the paper target, which is like for like in a shooting range sort of thing. There is a picture of Eva Braun also on that sort of thing. You don't really get to see it very close up and all that because they never zoom it in, but it is a known picture of her that you can, when you see a picture from a distance, hey, I've seen, like if you see a small picture of the Mona Lisa on a wall, you go, hey, that's the Mona Lisa because I recognize that picture. Well, this picture of Eva Braun is, again, this a known picture of her is prominently displayed on this.
They put a lot of attention to this detail for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted, going into this movie the very first time, I highly doubt that anyone at the time, like in 1985, the audience that would have seen it, maybe an older audience would have caught on, maybe a couple other people would have too, but I'm pretty sure your first viewing of this movie, a lot of the stuff you don't get to see. It doesn't sink in that we're dealing with a character that could possibly be an actual Nazi. He does happen to have, the German marching song, which again, when you hear that sort of music, you automatically know, yes, okay, so that's a German Nazi song. The
German
just
name.
exactly, and all that sort of thing. But it goes to show how this movie is so layered. I mean, on the surface, he could just be this guy that may be interested in that sort of era. He might not even be a German to begin with. However, he does later on in the movie use some German phrases and all that, but he doesn't have like a German accent. Sure, he's got the bleach blonde hair, but it's just more of a suggestion of who this character is because they don't actually, as part of his character, come out and point out that he is this character. And again, Bert has mentioned that he's known him for a number of years. So I mean, what are the chances that Bert doesn't realize that his buddy is a Nazi and all that? But it's just something that's interesting to create in a character that we are now almost a third of the way into the movie that we are now introducing as, which who turns out to be another one of the main characters. So
I thought it was kind of amusing that they did it because basically it just shows like you don't know your neighbors sort of thing. But it was the subtlety of that they wrote it in and all that, and you're like, that is so like clever for the like,
no, for sure, for
they
sure,
were
yeah.
really putting in Easter eggs that you didn't know you were looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And for me myself, it took the like it took like someone pointing out the fact after I'd seen it several times and all that, that like, oh wait, yeah, I guess he is. I well, and then you watch it again. I'm like, oh yeah, he is speaking German every once in a while and all that sort of thing. And it's kind of interesting to see that it is there, but it's not really there, sort of thing. It's again, it goes to show how well crafted the script for this movie is, how Dan O'Bannon suddenly put all these layers in that, again, it doesn't read in the script at any point that he points out that he's a Nazi. It's just the way that the character is portrayed is what brings it more across and all that.
Yeah.
Also, one of the other things is when the movie first came out in 1985, you're not going to the movie theater to see it several times, right? You pay for it once, a couple weeks later you go see another movie and whatnot. There's I mean, I personally can only think of, other than the Star Wars universe movies, I can't think of any other movie than like maybe a handful of movies that I saw more than once in the theater when I had to end up paying for my own tickets. When I got to the point where like I maybe saw a movie, maybe 5 or 6 movies that I paid to see it more than once in the theater. Again,
I think we would have been what, grade 8, grade 9 kind of thing.
yeah. Oh no, we would not have been able to see this movie in the theater. No, because it would have been a rated R movie, which it is. It's rated R, for obviously nudity, violence, language, and whatnot. Um, so it would have been impossible for us unless we snuck into a theater. But at the time, I wasn't into like seeing. I was just getting into horror on my own, watching it on TV, where it was a little more like a little more comforting to be in your living room watching something that you can stop if you needed to or something like that. I don't think I actually saw my first horror film in an actual movie theater until maybe what was I'm trying to think about that now that I actually should have thought of that before I started talking, but it might have been the third Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Because
I'm trying to remember some of them. I was 15. I don't know. I'd have to look up the date.
Yeah.
Blood.
I was a little older when I saw my first horror film in the movie theater. But prior to that, I'd been watching a lot of horror prior to that and all that, with everything on video or on, the First Choice Super Channel and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I think Dream Warriors was my first horror film that I saw in the movie theater. I'll have to look that up for the date and all that, make sure it works out and all that. But it was that, or it might have been a Friday the 13th around the same time. Might have been one or the other, but I'm
I
pretty
saw
sure.
Bram's. Was the no? It was a Dracula, the black and white.
Oh, yeah, that was the first. Well,
I didn't see it when it first came out. Of course, I saw
well,
it when
obviously, because that was
in theater.
1931.
They were playing it in one of those little small theaters. The reviews, like.
Well, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no. Okay,
So we would
then
have.
I would have definitely had
seen-
seen. Okay, so it would have been Vincent Price's House of Wax would have been the first horror film that I saw in the movie theaters because it was during the revival of the 3D movies, and my father took me to see Vincent Price's House of Wax in 3D. That probably would have been the first horror movie that I saw in, but those types of horror movies are what I enjoyed at the time before I started getting into, again, my history. The very first modern, and again, modern for when I was An American Werewolf in London. That was the first modern day horror film that I was able actually to sit through. Again, took me 3 viewings to get through just the opening part of the movie when Jack gets attacked by the werewolf. That just terrified me to no end, and I had to walk away 3 times. One time was even at a birthday sleepover that I had to walk away from my own party because I couldn't get past that point.
That movie didn't hit me hard. No,
Mhm.
I'm trying to think because I don't like them at all. You
Yeah.
seen me have to leave theaters in certain scenes. I almost made it through that brain eating scene, but that did me in. The guy who eats the brains, at the end, the guy was alive, sitting at the table, and that was like I made it through the whole stupid movie.
The second Hannibal Lecter movie.
Yes.
Yes. What was
Like
that one called?
I'm weak. I admit it. Who knew that would hit me, considering eating brains would be like a zombie thing,
Right.
But it was the whole he's alive and he's
We're
fine.
talking the Ray Liotta with the top of his head removed, and yes, exactly. Yeah, no. That was a shocking scene to see, though. That was actually quite impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't last. I had to. I made it through that whole stupid movie, and right there I died. Like I can't do it
Gotcha.
anymore. Gotta go.
Oh, that's too bad because that was pretty much near the end of the movie too.
Yeah, I almost made it.
Yeah.
Same with that other one with the Stargate guy from Atlantis.
Okay, now what movie are you talking about with him in it?
So yeah, he was a scientist in it, and they had some creature that they had been keeping.
Is it Splice?
Possibly.
Yeah, where they make a genetically created creature.
Girl creature.
Yes, it is Splice. Yeah, it's
I had to exit halfway.
Adrian Brody. Adrian Brody is in that movie. Yes. David Hewlett.
David Hewlett. That's it. Yep.
There we go. There goes the name. Finally, the memory, the switches are starting to go on. Right. Yes. Slice.
Yeah, that was another one Splice? I had to sneak out of.
Yeah.
Oh,
really?
Yeah. You were there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had brutal.
Yeah, I think we went to see the movie because it was David Hewlett, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. I remember that now. That's right. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I only went because everyone was going, and the next thing you know, I'm like, well, excuse me, I gotta go to the bathroom. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Wow, I do not remember you exiting for a period.
Yeah, it was a good chunk of it. I was in the hall listening so I could come back.
All right. So over on the commentary track, which is director, writer Dan O'Bannon and production designer William Stout, Dan O'Bannon is finishing off his comments about giving equal rights nudity. He says if a girl takes off her clothes, so does the guy. If he had thought about it, he would have had Tom Matthews take his pants off if he had known there would have been as many women watching the film. So both Dan and William praise Don Calfa as he is when he's on the screen, with William saying how he was a treat to work with, pointing out his big buggy eyes, and more than anyone else his wealth of Hollywood stories, plus his serious devotion to the role of portraying it as accurately as possible. Dan points out Ernie using the trocar and how they had toured plenty of mortuaries and how many didn't let them in. William states that they had gotten into enough to have him have a good enough idea of what they looked like inside. And then Dan continues with saying they usually were shown the front areas, the chapel and such, but they were very cagey about showing us the areas where they dressed the corpses. They both mentioned how they saw a few crematoriums and comparison between two completely opposite looking ones, a modern stainless steel one and a crumbling older one, the latter being the inspiration for what they built for the movie. All right, so now we go to according to the script. Okay, so this is a story and screenplay by Dan O'Bannon. The revision that we were working with is from October 1983, and it's based on a story and screenplay by John Russo, Rudy Rickey, and Russell Steiner. So this basically we're doing the exterior, cemetery, night, which is where this conversation is having. The particular version of the script has a conversation between Scuzz and Casey, not Chuck and Casey like we do in the final film. So we go over with Casey. How do you know, Scuzz? Because Freddy wouldn't be going into the mortuary. We then cut to interior mortuary and bombing room, night. Ernie Klatzenberger is working away on a body of a loved one. Lying on the table in front of him is the body of a middle-aged man with a distinguished head of gray hair. He has a big, long incision running down his belly, which Ernie is just finished stitching up. On the table next to him is a stainless steel pan containing all the corpse's internal organs, tubes leading into and from the arms draining out blood and putting the embalming fluid. Ernie wears a jogging suit and smokes a pipe. He appears to be completely absorbed in his work. He is wearing a pair of headphones, which goes down to a Sony Walkman in his pocket. There is a knocking on the door. Ernest fails to hear it because of his Walkman. The knock is louder. Still, Ernie does not hear. The door opens behind Ernie, and Bert sticks his head in. Bert, Ernie? Ernie hears nothing. Bert comes into the room, walks up behind Ernie, and taps him on the shoulder.
When you describe it, it feels like they have a rubber ducky.
Yeah, going back and saying Bert and Ernie sort of thing. Again, I have yet to find in my research for this movie if there is any sort of reason why the characters are named Bert and Ernie. From what I can figure out, it just happens to be a coincidence that they just happen to name the one character, because if you see in that little bit of a sequence in the script, the name changes to Ernest to Ernie to Ernest to Ernie again, back and forth. So I think they just had, when Dan O'Bannon was writing, he was calling him by his full name of Ernest and all that, and then breaks it down to, because obviously you call him Ernie as a short form of his name and whatnot. But the fact that no one has yet to point out the similarities of the characters' names to the Sesame Street characters, which is kind of weird, because I had always thought, before doing a lot of research for this, I'd always thought, oh, that's an inside joke. They're calling them Bert and Ernie, right, as buddies and all that sort of thing, because they've been friends for like 25 years and all that sort of thing. So of course, yes, Bert and Ernie, why not? But again, so far there is no sort of reference to anyone saying, hey, this is the reason why they called them Bert and Ernie. Obviously, we no longer have Dan O'Bannon with us, so we're not going to get an answer from him.
Yeah. I can remember thinking sort of a couple of times you'd be watching and going, is this like Sesame Street related? It would have been awesome if somebody was called Elmo or something, just even
exactly.
It wouldn't have made sense, but now it would have been hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, The only time you notice the names, especially when you're reading the script, because you're going back from Bert and Ernie, Bert and Ernie,
Oh yeah.
they rarely do call each
Beaver.
other by their names back and forth, right? He doesn't call him Bert and responds with "Yes, Ernie," sort of thing. All right, so work print comparison. Okay, so we have the incision shot as a full shot showing the blade cutting into the body. So the final print, we have a close up of Ernie doing the cut where it's just along the bottom edge of the frame. But the pulled back shot, where they show the body and all that, is what we actually have filmed in this work print, which means this continuous shot is actually even longer than the final film, which is kind of neat to see. A bit more of the setup of the aspiration is shown. Ernie setting up the clamp, poking his fingers into the incision to examine it, manipulating the air before the insertion of the trocar. Now, again, without the music overplaying the scene, we do hear Don making slight grunting sounds as he encounters resistance. He then wipes his gloved hands over his apron, which explains why all of a sudden it's a bloody mess on the front of his when we see him later on. He then picks up an item that after he slightly tilts the body's head, placing it under his chin to hold its latest position. He then reaches for a standard staple gun and on either side of the head places two staples. Now, the quality of the footage is a little degraded, but he's using a staple gun around the corpse's ear area. After tossing it aside, he then turns on the suction machine, which actually makes noise. Ernie then checks to the point of insertion, then removes the object he just put under the cadaver's chin. Again, with the graininess of the footage, it looks as if Ernie is working on some makeup of the deceased as he brushes something over its face. He then leans in and blows away residue, like in the final version that we see when we cut back to the full shot. He's leaning over the face, blowing away. It's obviously he was touching up some makeup on this person's face. And then the moment continues on like the final film. So it's kind of neat. Again, I'm watching this work print in comparison movie, so discovering new footage of a movie that I've known for all these years is just a thrill to see. And to see that they chose different things and all that. Again, the final film has a lot of insert shots that aren't in the work print. They fit perfectly into the stuff, but it's neat to see this longer version of a sequence. So this minute of the movie, which is minute basically 27 to 28, in the work print, we are working from minute 30:15 to 33:05. So we've almost got a 2-minute sequence that is cut down to a minute in the final film and all that sort of thing. So slowly but surely,
because they're trying to trim the movie down, going
exactly,
hey,
which
is just too much. They don't need all that detail.
No, definitely not. But again, having a work print that has the footage is just a wonderful surprise to see stuff I've never seen before. So yeah,
definitely adds to it.
Yeah. All right. So did you have anything else you want to say about this particular minute of the movie there?
Of the movie, not so much. I just remember the pipe was an interesting, like, it didn't feel like it belonged to me when I was watching it, going, that's really weird, because it was, of course he's not using the pipe, he's just holding it in his teeth for some reason.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't actually, he's not actually smoking it. There's no, the tobacco is not lit or anything like that. But he's just got it like clenched in his mouth, sort of thing, and then he just puts it down. Yeah.
It was kind of like, why did they include that? That was really weird. I just remember thinking it was really weird that he had a pipe for like.
Yeah, but it is in the script because it's clearly put in the script. So I guess the character does that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Dan, for dropping by to join me for this particular minute. Again, Happy New Year to everyone. Mind you, if you're not listening to this, that the day this episode drops, it's whatever day of the week it is that you're listening to this, whether or not it's the new year or not. But I'd like to thank you for joining us here, the audience that I'm talking to. Again, if you want to reach out about this particular minute or any other minute and all that, you could either drop us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com or leave a comment in any of our episodes. Like previously mentioned in the previous minute, we had someone leaving a message earlier that we gave them a shout out on that particular episode. So it's kind of neat to see more of an interaction with the audience. And again, it's nice to see that the audience is slowly but surely growing week by week, not by huge numbers again. One or two people joining along. It's nice to see the numbers increasing. And I thank everyone for joining me. And so once again, Dan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for letting me join you again.
Hey, everyone's welcome to join the show. So, and until next time, I have nothing else to say, but see you next Wednesday. You've just been listening to a Planet Geek production of Do You Want to Party? A Movies by Minute podcast of the 1985 The Return of the Living Dead. Please be sure to subscribe, download, comment, share, rate, and review. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, or Letterboxd. Search for Planet Geek Productions. X, former Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, search for Planet Geek Pod. Or send us an email to planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Our closing music is provided by Night Chill. See the show notes for more details. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and farewell, fiends. All right.
Oh, this sucks. It was the new zombie flick came out. I'm trying to remember the title.
Gotcha.
I can't seem to do it. And I thought, oh, this will be fine. I'll just look it up on my phone on Netflix. And there it is. Happiness. No, that can't be it.
No,
wait. Yeah, that's got to be it. Yeah, that's it.
On Netflix?
Yeah. The residents of a high-rise building fight for survival when a deadly disease breaks out and turns the infected into blood-lusting zombies.
Happiness, huh?
So it's just they're following a group of people inside a building.
Happiness. It's
a 2021, but it's just hit us now.
Gotcha. Yeah. But it's a movie, right?
It is a limited series.
Oh, television series. There it is there. Happiness. Gotcha. Okay. All right. A series. All right. Not bad.
Yeah, the trailers looked good. So yeah, it's Korean.
South Korean.
Young.
Yep. You go ahead. You say it all that way.
Yeah. You would think I'd start learning Korean by now, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know you watch enough of that stuff. All right. Okay. Let's get into this.
It looks so good though.
Okay. Have you watched any of it yet?
Train to Busan.
Right. Oh, it looks very pretty young cast and all that sort of thing. Okay.
It is. To me, it has a YouTube kind of feel to it.
Okay. All right. Let's get into this. All right. Here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
What was I going to say? There's something else I was supposed to say. Shoot. Okay. I got this. I can figure it out. I can get around to it. What do I got left? Oh yeah, I got 3 minutes to figure out what I wanted to say.
So it's a Happy Christmas and a Merry New Year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the last episode was the Christmas episode, so I already done that. This is the New Year's episode, so I don't have to do that. All right.